So I want to talk a little bit about morality. What is deemed as good, moral, virtuous? And I've been reading a lot of Nietzsche lately. I just finished the book Will to Power. And Nietzsche's concept of morals and what is good and what is evil is really a mind bender because it goes against pretty much everything you've been told in culture and society in your environment. Goes completely against it, especially if you grew up in a Christianized Western society. Nietzsche talks a lot about Christianity having this sort of moral structure that teaches the individual to remain docile, weak, servile, do as you're told, listen, don't question, don't be combative, don't be violent. This form of weakness, and it's really a pathology if you think about it. It's what Nietzsche talks about. And we're taught this from a young age. We're taught this in schools, in our churches, in our groups, in our environments, that to go against the grain, to question authority, to be combative, be disagreeable is frowned upon, that we should not do it, and that it is evil even. But when you start to think about it a little bit deeper, you start to realize that this could be some sort of psychological manipulative tool to use against, we'll just say, the working class. And so you graduate high school, maybe you go to college, you enter the workforce, you start working a normal job, everyday life, and you go to work, you do as you're told, you're hopefully working, maybe you're working hard and you're trying to attain a goal, right? And you don't really know exactly what you're working for. Maybe you go to a job and you have a boss. Maybe he has a boss as well. You have a group of authority over you that you answer to, but you don't really see that the authority behind them. They have bosses as well. They have authority behind them, and it goes up the food chain in the hierarchy. And this is what the span of control is in a hierarchy. A little group of people control the vast majority of other people below them. The bottom 80 to 90% is controlled by the top 10 to 20% of people. And you don't even know who these people are. You've never seen them. You don't know what their goals are, what they plan on doing. And they could be using you for completely nefarious goals to enforce their will however they see fit. Now, we can see where this servant mindset and this attitude, it can be turned into a pathology that can be turned into evil, even though you're not aware of it. You're ignorant to the fact of the puppeteers at the top controlling your strings. It's still happening, whether you want to believe it or not, or whether you're ignorant of it or not, it's still happening. It's like a shepherd controlling his flock of sheep. And so Nietzsche talks about being part of this group of sheep is actually what is evil, even though the sheep believe that they are doing good. They are serving, they are working hard in their work and their community. They're maybe even providing value in some way. But little do they know that they're being used for nefarious means. And this is how nature works. This is how the brutality of nature is. If you think about a rabbit is incapable of defending itself against its predator, a fox. Now, speaking about virtue, what is virtuous? The rabbit cannot be virtuous because it can't be virtuous even though it's comfortable, it's safe, it's non-violent, it's not really capable of much. It's doing it out of compliance. It has no other choice. It is prey. It doesn't have the capability to be violent or to enforce its will on others. And so the rabbit can be an analogy to everyday human beings. And a lot of the people that espouse this moral virtue of being safe, compliant, a servant, and being non-violent or not even capable of violence, they're signaling this virtue, but really, little do they know they're doing it out of compliance. They have to, because they're not capable of defending themselves. If we think about combat sports or fighting or combat in general, these people are capable of violence. They are capable of enforcing their will on others. And a lot of these people would say that these violent people are evil, when in reality, the real evil is them. Because in order to be virtuous, you can only be virtuous if you are capable of evil, if you are capable of violence, because then you have the free will choice to be able to enforce your will or not, or to show mercy. But just because the rabbit shows mercy and isn't violent, doesn't mean it's virtuous. The same goes for humans. Just because you are incapable of combat, of defending yourselves, because you're weak and docile, and that is a choice, by the way, just because you are weak does not mean you are virtuous when you show mercy, because that mercy is obligated. You're obligated to show mercy, because if you don't, you will get destroyed by the strong. And so, coming back full circle, this is what virtue is. It is being able to be capable of violence, of evil, of enforcing your will, and choosing not to. That is what true virtue is. And that is the paradox of morality, that in order to be truly moral, virtuous, and good, you have to be capable of great evil, of violence, of malevolence, of atrocity, and to integrate that dark side that every human being has, instead of externalizing it in the outside world and not integrating it within you. Virtue is being able to choose, not out of compliance or necessity, but out of your free will choice of whether or not you want to enforce that will on others or not, or show mercy.